He was never meant to be a hero, just a friendly dog who didn't quite make the cut in police training. But what Ranger discovered beneath a granite slab in Unsolved would do more than make headlines. It would shatter the illusion of safety. In a quiet California town, a thick fog had settled over the valley. Slow and dense, like milk poured over pine-covered ridges near Yosemite. The air felt heavy and damp, every breath cool and reluctant. Ranger wasn't bothered by any of it. His black Hantan nose was already buried in the trail, tail pointed straight up like a mast, pulling hard on the leash as he weaved across the frost-covered path. For him, mornings were always a chance to explore, to track, to solve whatever mystery the earth offered up. And today, though it seemed no different, would become the most pivotal day of his life. "Easy, buddy," Riley Patel said, adjusting their backpack straps with a grunt. "You're not working. We're just hiking." But Ranger didn't listen. He never really didn't, out of defiance, but instinct. He was once on track to join the Fresno County Sheriff's K-9 unit. His nose was exceptional. The problem was with suspect control when he was supposed to show aggression. He'd wag his tail instead, even licking hands meant to be cuffed. Too gentle, they said. Too trusting. So instead, he ended up with Riley, a volunteer park ranger and educator, who recognized the value of a kind heart. Together, they made an unusual but loyal pair, one carrying a camera, the other driven by pure determination. That morning, Riley had overslept and was now running behind for their shift at the visitor center. The main trail would take too long. So, when a lesser-known shortcut appeared, a steep, rugged path winding through a ravine strewn with boulders, they took it without hesitation. "All right, let's take the shortcut," they said. Unclipping Ranger's leash, the dog dashed ahead, paws crunching over gravel and pine needles as he vanished between massive granite blocks, some towering as high as vehicles. Though playful in his movements, there was focus in his strider, deliberate pace that hinted at purpose. The terrain here had changed with each winter: mudslides, rockfalls, the kind of slow transformations that turned trails into hazards. Locals had learned to read the land. Riley had, too. But they didn't expect Ranger to read something entirely different. A sharp noise rang out, a single yelp. Then silence. Riley froze. "Ranger." No reply. Then, two quick barks, urgent, not casual, not playful. "Ranger, come." The words came faster now, tinged with anxiety. They climbed over a fallen pine and ducked through tangled brush. The ground narrowed into a rocky chute. Boulders here had split and shifted over time, forming deep crevices that swallowed sound and light. Ranger stood still, body tense, ears alert. His nose hovered over a dark crack in a large stone, split down the middle like a cracked egg. The gap was wide enough to peer into, and led to nothing but blackness. He growled low, then whimpered. "What is it, boy?" Riley asked, pulse pounding. They crouched, pulled out a flashlight, and aimed it into the void. At first, there was only stone, then a flash of fabric. They adjusted the beam, a partial ribcage, bone-white, draped in a faded blue jacket, torn at the shoulder. Below it, a climbing harness, half covered in soil. The flashlight slipped from Riley's hand. "Oh my God," fingers shaking, they reached for their phone. "Ironwood Dispatch, what's your emergency?" "I'm off trail, near Mirror Lake Junction. My dog, we found human remains. Please send help." 2 hours later, the base of El Capitan buzzed with urgency. Law enforcement vehicles lined the clearing. Yellow tape fluttered in the breeze. Radios crackled. A single trail cam blinked silently. From a nearby tree, overhead, a helicopter stirred the pine-scented air. Amid it all, Ranger sat calmly beside a young officer. His tail moved slowly, but his gaze was sharp. He didn't understand the magnitude of what he'd uncovered on that it was important. Miles away in Fresno, Sheriff Boyd Tanner stared at a photo spread across his desk. A young man smiling on a granite peak. Benjamin Wilder, 24. He and his best friend, Miles Reeves, had gone missing 3 years earlier during a climb on El Capitan. No trace had ever been found, no gear, no clues. Until now, at a modest home in Fresno, Vera Wilder opened the door wearing sweatpants and an old hoodie, her hair pulled back loosely. She didn't need to see the badge. One look at Boyd's face said enough. "It's about Benjamin, isn't it?" she asked. Boyd nodded. "May I come in?" They sat in the living room, where nothing had changed. Photos still hung on the walls. Ben, grinning from cliffs, posing with their old dog, unwrapping birthday gifts. Each image a memory too vivid to forget. "This morning, a hiker's dog found human remains," Boyd said, hat resting in his hands. "Climbing gear was found with the body." Vera's stomach twisted. "Is it Ben? We're not sure. But the harness matches what Miles Reeves was wearing when they disappeared." Relief and guilt flooded her at once. Only Miles, so far. "The area was inaccessible until the recent slides," Boyd explained. "We're widening the search." Vera nodded slowly, thoughts racing. Benjamin always left his spare car keys before a trip. Always promised he'd be back by Sunday. That Sunday never came. Now, part of the truth had surfaced, but part of it was still hidden. Back on the mountain, Ranger sniffed at the wind. He pulled gently at the leash, as if to say, "We're not done, not yet." And he was right. What lay beneath those ancient stones wasn't just the aftermath of a tragic accident, it was something someone had tried to hide, and the dog deemed too gentle for police work. He was about to bring it all to light. For Vera Wilder, 3 years had done little to ease the pain. Since her brother vanished on El Capitan, she'd stopped hoping for answers. But now, a dog with a kind heart had found the first piece of a long-buried puzzle. People had told her it was time to move on. That grief, like old food in the fridge, had a shelf life. But loss doesn't follow a schedule. It doesn't dim quietly or leave when asked. It settles in your chest, sharp and stubborn, pushing hardest when the world wants you to be quiet. Now, across from Sheriff Boyd Tanner, Vera could hardly focus on his words. Her eyes were fixed on the evidence bag resting on the coffee table. Inside it was a red climbing harness, streaked with dirt and faded from years in the elements. Its once bright webbing was now dulled and brittle from sun and wind. She knew that harness it had been made. Benjamin and Miles had driven all the way to Denver to get it fitted. Miles had insisted on the best. He used to joke that, if the mountain didn't kill him, cheap gear might. Vera let out a slow, trembling breath. "That's his," she said quietly, tapping the plastic. "That's definitely Miles." Boyd gave a slow nod. "We're still waiting on the dental records, but this confirms a lot. The area where Ranger found him is unstable. Landslides have completely reshaped it over the years. That's likely why he was missed during earlier searches." "Ranger?" she asked. "That's the dog," Boyd said. "The one who found what no one else could." Vera shook her head in disbelief. 3 years. "I know this is a lot," Boyd said gently, leaning forward. "But we're not stopping here. We've launched a full search of the area. I'd like you to come with USC if you recognize anything. Items, clothing, anything that might have belonged to Benjamin." "I'll get my coat," she replied, standing up. Changing clothes felt pointless. Grief didn't wait for fresh jeans or neat hair. The ride from Fresno to Yosemite was quiet. Vera stared out the window as the familiar landscape passed by, fields fading into foothills, golden grass giving way to towering evergreens. She'd driven this road more times than she could count, always with Benjamin in the passenger seat, or, in the back, chatting excitedly about a new route or summit. She'd drop him off, promise burgers and beers when he got back, and he always came back. Until the day he didn't. At the ranger station, they transferred into a more rugged vehicle built for the back trails. As they climbed deeper into the wilderness, El Capitan came into view, huge and unmoving, like a monument carved from the earth itself. Her stomach clenched at the sight. Boyd pulled up beside a taped-off field of boulders. Yellow caution tape flapped lazily in the wind. Park rangers, forensic teams, and a few deputies carefully navigated the uneven ground. In the distance, she saw a familiar shaper, large German shepherd, sitting alert beside a young female officer. The dog's ears perked up as the vehicle approached. "That's Ranger," Boyd said. "The hero of the hour," the officer added, standing with a nod. He's been fidgety all morning. Keeps trying to head toward that far ridge. Still tracking something? Boyd asked. Seems like it. Vera crouched down slowly. Hey, Ranger, she said gently, letting him sniff her hand. He responded with a soft woof, his gaze steady, ears twitching, as though listening for something only he could hear. There was something knowing in his eyes, something calm, almost like he was waiting for everyone else to catch up. Let's hope he finds the rest, Vera murmured, standing. Inside a pop-up tent, acting as a temporary command post, Lieutenant Kim Chen greeted them with a firm handshake. We've found a few more items. Thought you might recognize something. On a folding table, several evidence bags were neatly arranged, a cracked compass, a worn photo of two men smiling at a cliff's edge, and a small zippered pouch that looked like it had weathered years in the wild. Vera stopped cold. That's Ben's, she said, pointing. He used to keep trail mix in that thing like it was treasure. Chen jotted down a note. Good to have the confirmation. All of this was located within 10 feet of the remains. We're hoping more turns up soon. She paused, meeting Vera's eyes. Did Benjamin ever talk about alternate routes? Anything that wouldn't appear on official maps? Vera thought for a moment. He kept a climbing journal, wrote everything down. Gear lists, weather notes, route sketches. It's still at his place, my place now. I never packed up his room. That could help narrow the area, if you're willing to bring it in. I'll get it today, Vera said. A distant rumble interrupted them. Heads turned. A man on horseback emerged over the ridge, followed by several slow-moving cattle weaving through the trees. He rode like someone born to it, relaxed, in control. His skin was deeply tanned by sun, his movements efficient and sure. Vera squinted. Is that Vernon Hartley? Boyd nodded. Yeah, the rancher. Chen raised an eyebrow. His land borders the park, right? That's him, Boyd said. Hartley Ranch. He's a local fixture, owns over 3,000 acres, ex-military, donates to just about every local cause. Kind of a legend around here. Vernon dismounted as he reached the perimeter, tipping his wide-brimmed hat in greeting. Afternoon, Sheriff. Everything all right? Boyd shook his head. I'm afraid not. One of the climbers who went missing a few years ago, his body turned up yesterday. Vernon's face grew taut, his sympathy unmistakably genuine. Such a tragedy, he said. I remember that search. My team helped comb through the area. He turned to Vera. You must be his sister. She nodded and offered her hand. Vera. Wilder, Vernon Hartley. I'm truly sorry for everything you're dealing with. His handshake was firm, his eyes steady. There was an old-fashioned quality to him, respectful, yet solid, like someone who'd seen a lot but didn't share easily. We'll find your brother, he said with quiet conviction. If he's up here, we'll find him. Later that night, back at her apartment, Vera sifted through Benjamin's old room. The scent of him lingered, chalk dust, sunscreen, and cedar sachets from their mother. She found the climbing journal right where she'd last left it. Its leather cover was worn, and the inside was filled with precise notes, gear lists, weather observations, hand-drawn sketches of cliff faces. Near the back, something unexpected, a set of 3 pay stubs paper-clipped together, each one marked with Hartley Ranch, listing tasks like fence repair and general labor. Vernon's signature was at the bottom of each. Her heart began to race. Benjamin had worked for Vernon Hartley in the weeks leading up to his disappearance. Flipping back a few pages, she found an entry. Vernon seems like a solid boss, quiet, smart. Gave us some advice on the east route. Said, there's an old trail that saves an hour. We're trying it tomorrow. She froze. Vernon had suggested a shortcut. But he hadn't mentioned any of this, nothing about knowing them, nothing when he shook her hand, or when he spoke about the original search. That night, sleep didn't come easily. Her thoughts turned endlessly, like gears grinding in a locked machine. Why would he leave that out? And what else had he kept from them? Out on the mountain, the wind shifted near the ridge line. Ranger, the search dog, sniffed the breeze, his body still. His handler gave a gentle pull on the leash. "Come on, boy. We'll try again tomorrow," but Ranger didn't move. Something deep in his instincts told him there was still more to find. He was acting differently, focused, alert, almost like a switch had flipped inside him. Ever since discovering the initial remains near El Capitan, he'd been pulling harder at the leash, more determined. His ears stayed perked, as though picking up signals no human could hear. Riley noticed the change right away. "He's restless," they told Lieutenant Chen, handing over a flyer with Benjamin Wilder's photo. "Always driven, but now he won't stop pacing unless I take him back toward the ridge." Chen studied the map spread across the folding table inside the command tent. They were 4 days into the renewed search. Dozens of officers, rangers, and volunteers had scoured the boulder fields and ravines near where the first remains were found. Helicopter sweeps had turned up nothing. A canine team from Modesto had joined in, but it was Ranger who kept circling the same spot northeast of the fissure. "You think he's picked up something new?" Chen asked. Riley nodded. "He's pointing the same direction every time. Like he's saying, 'You're not finished here.'" Chen crossed her arms. "Then we follow him." The next morning, they let Ranger lead. The path was harsher than expected, sharp granite, loose gravel, and patches where the ground had eroded from spring runoff. Riley stayed behind to manage comes, while Chen, 2 SAR volunteers, and Ranger advanced with ropes and safety gear. The dog took them straight to a narrow embankment hidden beneath brush. There, half covered by pine needles and dirt, was a fragment of sun-faded red nylon. Chen knelt beside it. Climbing tarp, she muttered, "Matches the gear miles and Benjamin were using." Ranger stepped closer, then froze, body rigid, tail straight, nose low. He let out a sharp, focused bark. "He's found something." They began clearing the debris with gloved hands and trowels. What surfaced wasn't a full body but something nearly as jarring. A boot, still laced, still attached to a portion of a human foot. Chen turned away briefly, hand over her mouth. "God." The area was immediately flagged for forensics. While they waited, Ranger paced in tight circles, tail low, ears pinned slightly. He understood what they had uncovered, another missing piece of a puzzle only he could detect. Back in Fresno, Vera sat at her dining table, surrounded by paperwork, notes, and photos. Her apartment had taken on the appearance of a detective's workspace. Every detail of Benjamin's life in the weeks before he vanished was laid out in front of her. Receipts from climbing shops, his field journal, the pay stubs from Hartley Ranch, even a crumpled flyer for a seasonal job fair. She'd spent most of the night rereading the journal. Talked to Vernon today about that shortcut Benjamin had written. Used to be an old logging road. Not on any maps now. Saves about 45 minutes. Miles was unsure, but will probably take it. That name, again, the same man who had shaken her hand with practiced calm, who offered help and resources, who claimed to remember the search but said nothing about employing her brother. The pieces didn't quite fit. Maybe it had slipped his mind. Or maybe it hadn't, and that thought stuck with her. That afternoon, she returned to Yosemite with the journal and a photo of the recovered boot. Chen met her near the ranger station, looking worn down but resolute. "It's a match for what Benjamin was wearing," Chen confirmed. "Still no full recovery, but we're optimistic." Vera's hands trembled. "He's really out there." Chen gave a small nod. "We'll find him." Vera handed over the journal. "Start here," she said, tapping the back pages. "He mentions Vernon Hartley more than once, and the shortcut." Chen flipped through the worn pages, her brow furrowing. As she read, "This is helpful. We'll shift part of the search zone." She turned to pass the journal to a field tech, but a soft bark cut through the tension. Ranger had returned and he was staring right at Vera. She instinctively knelt. "Hey, buddy." The dog sniffed at her clothes, then nudged the journal. In Chun's hand. "He's responding to something," Riley said from behind. "It's the scent. Every time it's the same reaction." Vera tilted her head. "What scent?" "Anything that belonged to your brother," Riley said. "The pages, the gear, He knows it. That night, Vera sat quietly in her car, parked near the edge of Hartley Ranch. She hadn't told anyone where she was going. She wasn't trespassing, just driving by. Just observing. The front gate stood ajar. A gravel road wound its way up to the main house, warm yellow light glowing softly from the windows. Off to the side, cattle gathered silently along the fence line. On the surface, everything looked calm, and ordinary ranch trucks parked in a neat row. Stables well kept, a flag lazily drifting above the barn. Still, something about it unsettled her. She recalled Vernon's voice back at the search site. He was blonde, right? Fit, outdoorsy. How had he known that? How could he recall so much about someone he barely admitted to knowing? Vera stared through the windshield, fingers tapping a nervous rhythm on the steering wheel. Then she saw a low concrete structure tucked into the hillside at the back of the property. Almost invisible, except for the industrial air vents jutting out from the ground above it. Her skin tingled with unease. It looked like a bunker. But why would a cattle ranch need a reinforced concrete bunker? Back at the command post, Chen gathered her team for a quick briefing. The boot found in the last search matches Benjamin Wilder. His sister brought in a journal. It includes a note about a shortcut, supposedly recommended by Vernon Hartley. One deputy raised an eyebrow. Hartley, the same guy who offered search help. Chen nodded. That's him. We need to tread carefully. He's well known in the community, has allies in the DA's office, donated gear to the department last year. Riley chimed in. What about Ranger's behavior? His reaction to the journal. The way he keeps pulling toward that trail. That's not nothing. It's all circumstantial, Chen replied. But yes, it raises questions. Another deputy shifted uncomfortably. You think Hartley's hiding something? Chen's expression hardened. It's time we find out. The next morning, Vera returned to the ranch, this time with intent. She parked just beyond the gate and entered on foot, dressed in hiking clothes that gave the appearance of casual purpose. Her story was simple. She was following up on Vernon's offer to support the ongoing search. In reality, her eyes were on the bunker. She passed the barn, nodding at a ranch hand who paid her no attention. She walked slowly, trying to keep her nerves from showing. Her heart pounded beneath her vest. Then she saw it tucked behind the trees and partially camouflaged by brush. Up close, the structure looked older, solid, built into the hillside with small SRW newer door, secured with industrial-grade locks. A red light blinked from a security camera above the entrance. She crept closer. Then a sound. A voice, muffled, from inside. She dropped low to the ground, pulse racing, and edged toward one of the air vents. Pressing her ear to the grate, she listened. Please, please don't. Her blood ran cold. A second voice, deeper and firmer, replied. You know the rules. She heard the rattle of chains, the scrape of metal against concrete. Everything: the search, Benjamin's disappearance, the boot. The unspoken gaps in Vernon's story suddenly locked into place. This wasn't just a theory anymore. Someone was inside that bunker, and Vera was no longer hunting for clues. She was standing right on top of them. She didn't believe in ghosts. But at that moment, just 10 feet from the sealed bunker door, she could swear the air was thick with something unseen. Not supernatural, worse, tangible, human. She heard Vernon's voice, steady, controlled, like someone disciplining a child or pacifying a caged animal. Then came a sharp intake of breath, pain in the other voice, crying, hoarse and desperate. Take your medicine, or you don't eat. You know the rules. Vera felt her breath catch. She pressed her ear closer to the vent. I'll take it, the voice whimpered. Please, just don't leave me down here again. Her heartbeat thundered in her ears. There was no doubt anymore. Someone was trapped inside. And deep in her gut, she knew it was Benjamin. She backed away, gravel crunching underfoot. Her legs barely held her upright. The world tilted around her, the shock sinking in. She reached her car and collapsed into the driver's seat, gripping the wheel with trembling hands. Digging her phone out of the console, she dialed Sheriff Boyd Tanner. He answered on the third ring. Boyd, it's Vera, she said in a whisper, her voice shaking. I was just at Hartley Ranch. Vernon has someone locked inside a concrete building. I heard him, I heard chains. He was speaking to someone. There was a pause. You're certain it was Vernon? I know his voice, she said. And someone else was in there crying, begging. Another pause, longer this time. Then came that calm, measured tone law enforcement used when trying to keep someone composed. Okay, Vera, tell me where you are. She gave him directions. Just past the cattle gate off Mountain Road. There's a structure at the back of the property. It's built into the hill. There's a camera, industrial locks, and air vents. That's where I heard them. I believe you, he said finally. But without a warrant or solid cause, I can't send a team in. It's private land. You think I made this up? She snapped. That I imagined chains. That I imagined someone pleading not to be left alone. I didn't say that, he replied carefully. But Vernon's got connections. He's protected. Accusing him without proof. That wasn't going to cut it. Vera stared at the dashboard, fury simmering just beneath the surface. Then I'll get the evidence, she muttered. Sleep never came. Instead, she spent the night digging through Benjamin's old tools and equipment until she located what she was after: his rugged, weather-resistant trail camera. Designed for extended wilderness use, it was motion-sensitive, infrared-capable, and completely silent. If Boyd needed irrefutable proof, she'd deliver it by 2 a.m. Vera was creeping along Mountain Road with her headlights off, heater turned low to keep her sharp. The stars barely pierced the tree canopy, and with no moonlight, the forest was cloaked in near-total darkness, perfect for staying hidden, terrible for moving around. She parked behind a thick cluster of pines roughly 100 yards from the bunker. It was close enough to monitor, far enough to escape if anything went wrong. Everything was still. Vernon's truck was gone. That was a relief. With the trail camera strapped securely to her chest, she crept forward. Her flashlight glowed red, a filter to reduce visibility and avoid drawing attention from animals or people. A tall pine caught her eye high enough for a good vantage point, offering cover and a clear view of the bunker entrance. She strapped the camera to the trunk, angled it carefully, and flipped the switch. A soft chirp confirmed activation. She stepped back, satisfied. That's when she saw it. Vernon's truck had returned. The interior light glowed faintly. From her position, she could make out a few scattered items: a magazine and a small bottle. Her stomach dropped. Not just any magazine. This one focused on fitness and featured muscular men in tight compression gear. The bottle was a tiny glass vial with a popper-style cap. She remembered it from a college party. Her roommate had explained what it was used for. Often connected with physical intimacy. Suddenly, the pieces began falling into place. Benjamin athletic, outdoorsy, single fit Vernon's type perfectly. Vera turned to leave, her heart pounding. But it was already too late. You just couldn't let it go, could you? The voice was behind her. Low, steady, unnervingly calm. She turned slowly. Vernon stood just 10 feet away, sleeves rolled up, jeans dust-covered. No weapon, no dog, just him and a mask that had finally slipped. She started, but he moved fast. His hand clamped over her mouth, the other wrapping around her waist. She struggled, kicked, bit into his palm. He yelled, but didn't release her. Then, suddenly, he slammed her down, pinning her arms. Her phone slipped from her pocket, skidding across the dirt. Vera lunged for it, gravel digging into her hands. She snatched it up and hit the call button just as he yanked her back by her jacket hood. 911, what's your emergency? Help, she screamed. Hartley Ranch. He's attacking me. It's Vernon. The line crackled. A moment later, glass shattered as Vernon smashed the driver's side window with a crowbar. Shards rained inside like frozen needles. He reached for the lock. Vera ducked and scrambled into the passenger seat, still clutching her phone. Help, he's dragging me. The door flung open. Vernon grabbed her by the hair and hauled her out. The phone fell. Her screams echoed through the forest. When she came to, The concrete beneath her was freezing. The air was damp and metallic. Her wrists throbbed, zip-tied tight behind her back. One ankle was chained to a heavy length of steel. Across the room, a frail figure lay motionless on a cot. She knew that silhouette no matter the dirt, scars, or matted hair. "Ben," she rasped. He stirred. A faint blink. A breath. "Vera," he whispered. Tears welled up. She crawled toward him, the chain jerking taut 6 feet short. "I'm here," she said. "I found you. Oh my God, I found you." Footsteps echoed. Vernon entered, wiping sweat from his forehead. "How sweet," he said. "You always were too curious for your own good. You're sick," she spat. He shrugged. "I kept him alive. That's more than anyone else would have done. You chained him in a bunker. I protected him." She lunged, but the chain yanked her back. "You're not getting away with this," she hissed. "I already have for 3 years." He looked at Benjamin. Something tender flickered in his eyes. "I loved him," Vernon whispered. "Still do. You don't kidnap someone you love." "I saved him." Vera stared, horrified. "You killed Miles, didn't you?" Vernon's face darkened. "He tried to take Ben from me. He didn't get it. He called me a monster." "You are?" Sirens pierced the distance. Lights flickered above. Vernon grabbed a rifle from the wall and chambered a round. "They'll shoot you," Vera warned. "Better than a cage," he muttered, eyes dead. Then Ranger's bark broke the night. A voice shouted, "Sheriff's Department, drop the weapon." A flashbang burst through a ventilation shaft. Blinding light, deafening noise, chaos. Vernon screamed. Gunfire erupted. Then silence through the haze. Vera saw figures moving. Someone cut the chain. Arms lifted her. Ranger, dusty and panting, barked beside her. Benjamin curled on the ground, whispering the same name again and again. "Miles, Miles," she took his hand. "You're safe now." The medevac flight blurred by. Vera sat in the helicopter, her brother's frail hand in hers, blades roaring overhead. Strapped to the stretcher, Benjamin lay still, oxygen mask on his face, an IV running into his arm. He hadn't spoken since the rescue. His eyes fluttered open occasionally, dull and unfocused. She kept whispering, again and again, "I've got you. You're safe. I'm right here." Ranger, caked in soot, followed in the support SUV. He hadn't left until both Vera and Benjamin were safely out. His paws were torn up, tail low, but he stood firm. The hospital room was warm, quiet, filled with the steady rhythm of heart monitors. Vera hadn't left Benjamin's side in 2 days. The doctors did everything: rehydration, nutrition, wound care, scans, blood work. But they all knew the physical damage was only part of it. He had survived. But the healing had just begun. But the man she remembered, her brother, was gone. The one who used to belt out classic rock tunes while driving the winding roads to USCT, who would race Ranger along pine-covered trails, who could scale sheer granite like gravity didn't apply to him, had vanished. What remained didn't speak, didn't cry, and barely seemed to recognize her at all. Sudden movements made him flinch, and he recoiled from anyone in a uniform. The only one he seemed to accept was Ranger. The big dog barely left his side, curled up next to the hospital bed with his head resting on the mattress. He barely moved except to lap water or nibble at pieces of chicken Vera brought from the cafeteria, wrapped in napkins. One paw stayed, draped gently over Benjamin's arm, as if he was standing guard. And, in a way, he was. On the 3rd day, a tall woman with salt and pepper hair and tired, kind eyes walked into the room holding a clipboard. "I'm Dr. Patricia Inouye," she said softly. "Trauma psychiatry." Vera stood to offer her seat, but the doctor shook her head. "Please, stay comfortable," she said. "I've reviewed his file. Your brother has been through extreme psychological trauma. Selective mutism in situations like this isn't unusual. Honestly, the fact that he spoke at the scene is encouraging." "Will he ever come back to who he was?" Vera asked. Dr. Inouye let out a slow breath. "He might never be exactly the same, but recovery is possible. People rebuild. They find strength in new ways." Sometimes the goal isn't returning to the past, it's learning how to move forward. Vera nodded slowly, holding back tears. He used to be fearless. Then that part of him is still there, the doctor replied. Fearlessness doesn't disappear. It just waits until it feels safe again. That afternoon, Sheriff Boyd Tanner arrived with Lieutenant Chen. Boyd looked older somehow, worn down by the past few days. Is he stable? He asked. Vera nodded. Physically, yes. The three of them sat in the corner of the room while Benjamin slept. Vernon's in custody, Chen said. He confessed. Vera's body tensed. All of it, Boyd added. He admitted to killing Miles Reeves. Shot him in the bunkhouse after Miles confronted him about your brother. He claimed Benjamin went with him willingly, Chen added. But we know that's a lie. He sedated him with veterinary tranquilizers, strong stuff, meant for livestock. Ben was out for 3 days before Vernon moved him into the bunker. He'd spent years modifying that place, Boyd said. Installed plumbing, ventilation, stocked food. It was a fully functioning underground shelter. What about the rock slide? Vera asked. He caused it, Boyd answered. Vernon worked with the Army Corps of Engineers for 2 decades, had access to classified information, even kept some explosive materials illegally. He rigged it, buried Miles' body in a crevice and triggered the slide to make it look natural. Vera brought a hand to her mouth. He didn't just cover it up, he orchestrated the whole thing. Chen nodded solemnly. He'd been planning this for years. His psychological profile matches other possessive offenders, but, the most disturbing part, this wasn't his first time. Vera's eyes widened. What are you saying? Boyd opened a folder and placed it in front of her. We've confirmed at least 7 previous assaults. All young men, workers, transients, people with no local ties. He drugged them, assaulted them, then either paid them off or threatened them into leaving town. None of them came forward, but Benjamin. Vera began. He couldn't let Benjamin go, because Benjamin fought back, she said softly. He never gave in. Exactly, Chen replied. Vera turned to her brother, his face hollow, his body wasting. She thought of those 3 years, how many nights she'd spent not knowing, only hoping, and how close he had come to dying, locked away, and forgotten. If it hadn't been for Ranger, he might never have been found. That night, she sat by his bedside, holding his hand. She played an old voice memo on her phone, the last voicemail he left before his trip. Hey V, heading up tomorrow. Gonna try a new trail. If I don't make it back, you can have my record collection. Except Bowie. Bury that with me. She laughed quietly through tears. You absolute dork. Benjamin stirred, his lips moved. Vera leaned closer. Miles, she froze. Ben's eyes cracked open, tears forming along the lashes. He tried to stop it, he whispered. Didn't run, I know, Vera said, voice trembling. He was trying to protect you. He died a hero. His hand curled weakly around hers. For the first time, his eyes locked with hers and didn't drift away. I missed you, he said. Vera broke. She gently wrapped her arms around him, holding him carefully, like she could shield him from ever being hurt again. You're safe, she whispered. You're not alone. In the days that followed, things moved fast. Vernon Hartley was transferred to federal custody. He faced a long list of charges: first-degree murder, kidnapping, unlawful imprisonment, sexual assault, and the attempted murder of a police witness. His attorney submitted a plea of not guilty by reason of diminished capacity. The community that once viewed Vernon as a friendly, dependable rancher began to fracture. Former employees stepped forward with unsettling accounts. Donations to his causes were returned. Local media ran exposes. The bunker was demolished. And Ranger. He became a national icon. Photos of him beside Benjamin's hospital bed, one paw gently resting on the blanket, spread across the internet like wildfire. The headlines called him the dog who never gave up. News vans rolled into Fresno. And the world took notice of the hero with 4 paws and an unbreakable bond. The sheriff's department hosted a small ceremony. where Ranger received an honorary canine medal and a specially made collar. During the event, Vera knelt next to him, gently rubbing his ears. "You saved my brother's life," she whispered. "How do you even begin to thank a dog for that?" Ranger responded by licking her hand. Meanwhile, Benjamin's progress at the hospital was slow but steady. Therapy, proper nutrition, and time helped him gradually regain his strength. He started speaking more, sitting up on his own, and watching the world through the window. He hadn't been outside yet. But on the 7th day, when Ranger padded into the room with Riley close behind, Benjamin reached out instinctively. "Hey boy," he whispered, running his fingers through Ranger's dense fur. The dog lowered his head onto Benjamin's knee with a quiet sigh. Vera watched silently, emotion filling her eyes. She knew the journey ahead would be long, but, with her brother at her side, and the dog who never stopped searching lying at their feet, the world seemed a bit safer. 6 months later, Benjamin Wilder took his first hike into the Sierra foothills. He wasn't climbing a Ghent, least not yet, but he was walking upright, breathing in crisp mountain air, surrounded by a quiet that no longer felt threatening. Vera walked just beside him, never hovering, but always nearby, always watching. And Ranger, faithful as ever, led the way, tail raised, nose to the wind. Every few yards, he paused, glanced back, and gave a short huff as if to say, "Well, you two coming, or what?" Benjamin smiled. Not the kind you fake to be polite, but a genuine one, quiet and hard-earned. The kind that comes only after you've lived through something dark and made it back. It was the first time Benjamin had stepped outside Fresno since the day he was rescued. His recovery hadn't come in big leaps, but in fragments. In the beginning, even sleep was hard to find. The hospital bed felt too exposed, too vulnerable. Everyday sounds, metal trays clanking, or the hiss of an oxygen tank, could send him into a panic. Once, he even dove under the bed when a maintenance worker dropped a tool in the hallway, but things began to shift. Therapy helped. So did Dr. Nangwin. She never forced conversation. She waited, listened, let Benjamin open up when he was ready. They began with simple things: routines, meals, physical exercises, handwriting. Then came Ranger. The German Shepherd was given special permission to stay with Benjamin for long visits. He'd rest with his head on the mattress, following Benjamin's scent as if it were his mission. And maybe, in a way, it was. Benjamin would often speak softly to Ranger, sometimes for minutes, sometimes hours. No one knew exactly what was said, but each time he seemed a little lighter, as if sharing the burden made it easier to bear. Meanwhile, Vera found herself unexpectedly thrust into the public eye. The story spread nationwide within days of the rescue. News crews camped outside the hospital. Interview requests poured in from morning shows to podcasts. She turned down most of them. She wasn't chasing attention. She wanted justice. She worked closely with the district attorney to make sure Vernon Hartley was held accountable. At the trial, she gave a victim impact statement that later appeared in the LA Times, not because it was sensational, but because it was real. "My brother wasn't just stolen from us. He was erased. For 3 years, he became someone's secret, someone's obsession, but he's more than what was done to him. He's a climber, a son, a brother, a survivor, and he's finding his way back." The courtroom remained silent. Vernon never once looked her way. He received a life sentence without parole, plus an additional 40 years. By April, Benjamin had moved into Vera's apartment, which had been transformed into a calm, quiet space. Soft lighting, muted colors, a small therapy garden on the balcony. Ranger had his own bed in the corner of Benjamin's room. One morning, as they sat sorting through old photographs on the floor, Benjamin spoke. "Did you ever think I was gone?" Vera looked up. "No, I didn't." "Why not?" She gave a soft smile. "Because I never stopped feeling you were out there, not once." He nodded, eyes glistening. "I held on because I thought maybe, just maybe, you'd find me." "We did," she said. "Ranger did." Benjamin glanced at the dog, who was now asleep, gently snoring. "Then I guess I owe him everything." No, Vera said quietly. You owe that to yourself. You survived. A few weeks later, they returned to Yosemite. Not to climb at least not yet, just to walk, to see, to remember. They stayed at a quiet lodge near the park, one that welcomed dogs and asked no questions. Staff gave them space, though some left notes of encouragement. Thank you for your courage. We prayed for you. You're the reason we keep hope alive. That morning, they hiked up to Mirror Lake. Following the trail Benjamin had once written about in his journal, the one Vernon had used to lure him, but this time, they stayed on the main path. By noon, they reached a clearing with a stunning view of El Capitan's granite face. Benjamin stared at it for a long time. Ranger sat beside him, panting softly. You think you'll climb again? Vera asked. He shrugged. Maybe, maybe not. I don't feel like I need to prove anything anymore. He turned to her. I just want to see beauty again. That's what I miss most. She nodded, wiping a tear from her eye. It's still there. You just have to look. That evening, back at the lodge, Benjamin opened a notebook. Not a journal not yet, but a blank one, a beginning. He wrote a single sentence. Ranger found me before I even knew I was still alive. He tore out the page and placed it on the nightstand. Vera came in carrying 2 mugs of chamomile tea. You writing again? She asked. I think so, he replied. About the mountain? No, he said. About the dog, she laughed. You're going to make me cry again. He handed her the note. She read it, then looked up with a smile. Book title, maybe. Ranger's Trail, she said aloud. I like it. Benjamin took a sip of tea. It fits. It wasn't my trail that brought me home, it was his. Back in Fresno, Sheriff Tanner held a press conference. Ranger, now officially retired from future canine testing, wore a small medal around his neck. He may not have passed the bite test, the sheriff said, but I think we all agree he passed the heart test. Reporters laughed, and Ranger barked once, as if on cue. The sheriff continued, in this line of work, we talk a lot about instincts. But sometimes, it's not about training or tactics. Sometimes, it's just about refusing to quit. He paused. That dog never gave up, and neither did Vera, and because of that, a man who was forgotten made it home. 6 months after the rescue, the town of Oakhurst unveiled a bronze statue at the Yosemite Valley trailhead. Ranger was captured mid-step, nose forward, tail lifted, a tribute to every dog who ever found what others missed. At the base of the statue, a small plaque read, "For those who never stopped searching." Benjamin stood quietly next to it, one hand resting on Ranger's head. Tourists passed by, some recognized him, others didn't. It didn't matter. He wasn't there for attention. He was there because he made it out. Still healing, still climbing. Even if the climb looked different now.